The Wii had an interesting lineup, a fact that has only been more obvious to me as time has passed. You obviously had the incredibly successful and critically acclaimed titles, Twilight Princess, Mario Galaxy, and Poke Park Wii Pikachu's Adventure to name a few. But on the other hand, you also found the less successful and slightly stranger titles, some of which may have deserved their time in the spotlight and some which definitely did not. LEDs, Pandora's Tower, Fragile Dreams, Farewell Ruins of the Moon, Little King's Story, Sakura Wars So Long My Love, just some of the great and unique games that, in my opinion, got lost within the vast amount of shovelware released for the console and didn't get the chance they needed to be successful. Although honestly, I haven't played some of these and wish they had been more popular so I had the chance to. You can't tell me this doesn't look cool as anything, But the game we're here to talk about today is Zack and Wiki, Quest for Barbaros' Treasure, released on the Wii on January 2008 in Europe. I've seen literally 0 people ever talk about this game, which was one of my favourites when I was a child, so we're here yet again to talk about it today. For a game with such a pretty art style and fun gameplay, I'm really surprised it didn't perform better and isn't more fondly remembered, although I suppose that can be marked up to certain control difficulties. Anyway, I've played through the game again now, so now we'll go through each stage of the game, sharing the experience, and I'll give some of my thoughts, and believe me, I have a lot of thoughts. So let's strap ourselves in and get right into it. Please be warned, there will be spoilers for the entire game throughout. On opening the game from the Wii menu, we get told to wear the Wii remote strap while playing, and honestly, you absolutely should do that. Some of the motions this game makes you do are criminal. The title screen is a peaceful, quiet look over one of the first levels. If you leave the screen for a while, the visuals will change to another level from a different world. There isn't any movie or anything I'm aware of, but it's still pretty nice. The intro cutscene starts with text narration telling us about the dream of pirates all over the world, Treasure Island, and the legendary ship that comes with it. We get to see our protagonist, Zack, lean into a treasure chest to pick up something we don't get to see yet, and we cut to the opening credits over the blue sky. Capcom? Wait a minute, what are you doing here? The blue sky pans across and a dingy skyplane pans into view. This was actually just before its award-winning starring role in Animal Crossing New Horizons. May they rest. After a little aerial acrobatics, we zoom inside to the interior and get a look at our main characters. And we get little character bios as well. That's actually so cool, I love this. First is Wiki, a golden floating monkey creature that can turn into a bell for some reason, and he likes pistachios. Neat. Wiki acts as the smart part of the title duo, and is the only one that speaks of the two, as Zack cannot speak in words, just primal beast noses. He's also the only member of the cast that has a brain, which isn't saying much actually. Next we're introduced to Zack, a pirate whose head is empty and all he wants is chocolate and treasure of any kind. He's also incredibly dumb for a puzzle game protagonist, which I will be emulating via my gameplay, because I am also dumb. Johnny Styles is next, and I've just realised he's driving the plane with his feet, cool. Johnny acts as a bit of comic relief throughout the game, and also is weird in the way he speaks to people, which is going to be fun later. Also, this is a great time to mention the little noises that the characters make when they speak, which is the extent of the voice acting the game has. From what I can tell, most of the characters have little snippets of Japanese, and only Johnny has English phrases. I'm a really big fan of these. They add a lot of personality, which is something the game certainly isn't short of. Every single creature and character is incredibly expressive. It's one of the game's biggest assets in my opinion. Soon after a little bit of banter, the first stage officially starts and we get our first look at the game's controls. At its core, this game is a point-and-click puzzle adventure game, with a Wii cursor acting as the mouse. After clicking on Johnny, an alarm sounds and we get a tutorial on how to control the camera, which I had some trouble with since the Wii motion controls are not good actually. Zooming out to see the entire stage, which can be incredibly useful, we are greeted by the opening scene to Star Wars A New Hope, when the incredibly named bourgeoisie pirates, the Rose Rock, fly overhead. They appear to be a rival gang to our protagonists, and we meet the absolute icon and legend that is Captain Rose.
She's got a point, she's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now.
I am obsessed with her. She's almost completely useless. The shade of lipstick she uses is barely visible against her skin. She draws a scar on her face with the same shade, and she has the stereotypical rich anime lady laugh. How could you not love her? She also parades around her own personal crew of Rose goons who don't have a great time throughout this game. The ship starts shooting at us, the goons descend aboard, and oh my god, that guy just died. Now that our vessel is in high alert, we take back control of Zack and learn more about the gameplay flow. Interacting with certain objects or pieces of scenery will cause a change in the camera angle, allowing further interaction, such as with this lever. Now, everything in this game is controlled via the motion controls, and I mean everything, with varying results. The motion to be used is similar to how you would expect to use the object in real life, and we get this little shirtless human person in the top corner showing how to grip the controller. There's no animation for them beyond this level though, that would have been really useful. After jumping out of the plane with absolutely no foresight or plan whatsoever, Wiki laments that they will have to live on alone after Zack plummets to his death, and does not offer to help even once, although thankfully there was this dusty old decrepit umbrella falling down beside us. Now, you may have noticed that at times, a score will appear in the bottom right of the screen, with some characters showing up on occasion, like some sort of rabbit jump scare. This is the game's way of scoring puzzles, Hiramekyū, which is some sort of Japanese pun I think, I'm not quite sure honestly, I couldn't find that out, sorry. The score will decrease if you provide an incorrect solution to a puzzle, or do certain elements to a puzzle out of order. Honestly, sometimes it feels like the game will deduct points for absolutely no reason, or take them away for reasons that are out of your control. Thankfully, it doesn't really matter, beyond getting some titles and for completion's sake. Wiki sees a giant treasure chest across the ravine we find ourselves at, and the plane we were just in is sliding down the river, ready to completely destroy and flatten us, so we need to move quickly. Shaking the tree drops a very angry looking centipede out of the leaves, which introduces us to the creature item mechanic. Wiki can be rung like a bell in order to transform creatures and humans into items that are used to solve puzzles. For example, this centipede will become a saw, and when you pick the item up for the first time, you get this little Zelda-like shot of Zack holding it up. This is fun to begin with, but it happens in every level, every time you get an item for the first time, so it soon outlives its welcome. Now, obviously, we have a tree, and we have a saw. We're gonna cut down the tree. Clicking on the tree gives us a... oh, wow, okay. As we can see, the motion controls are fairly self-explanatory for the most part, but later on we'll see this may not always be the case. The plane destroys the outcrop we were just on, and you can die quite easily if you mess around for long enough. The chests at the end of each level are cursed, and you need to ring Wiki to uncurse them. That surely can't be a sign we shouldn't open them or anything, don't worry about it. Anyway, we open the chest to find a golden skull with a cool mustache, which ends the level. The skull begins to speak, revealing itself as a legendary pirate Barbaros, associated with Treasure Island and his legendary ship. He seems to know Wiki and is very angry with him, but Wiki literally does not care, so Barbaros decides it's a case of mistaken identity, and we move on far too quickly for my liking, but then again, I am the only person in this equation with any brain cells. We learn that he has been cursed, obviously, and his body parts have been scattered across the lands, and the pair agree to help in exchange for Barbaros' legendary ship and passage to Treasure Island. The pair are very trusting in this very creepy and generally untrustworthy skull, and I would like to just bring up the fact that your chest was cursed. Can we mention this? No? Okay. Anyway, the end of the level brings us to the adventure results screen. This lists your HQ score, all of the items you picked up during the level, and how many Oracle dolls or Platinum tickets you used. We'll talk about those in a bit. You then get a rank based on your performance, and if you got enough points or treasure, you get a new title, which comes with a picture of Zack and Wiki, which changes in quality depending on the rank. It starts off with this child's drawing, which is honestly adorable. We're then brought back to the pirate's hideout, which is the hub of the game, holding all of your essential services. First, there's a bookshelf that holds information on all the characters and items you've come across, as well as allowing you to play back music and movies you picked up, but it's empty now since you need to use a different mode we haven't picked up yet to fill it. Kinda weird. Next up is the Pirate's Log, held by Johnny. This tells you stats about your playthrough, like how many Oracle dolls you used, how many times you died, your total playtime, and so on. Next is Dimmy, who will tell you various rumours, which are honestly not particularly useful at any stage, and I hate him. You need to wipe your nose, you look like that kid from Wind Waker. Lofrey will let you check how to use various items and switches in the game, but you have to clear the level associated with them first, so they're honestly completely useless. Thanks Lofrey, go back to sleep. Granny at the back will let you buy Oracle dolls or Platinum tickets. Oracle dolls will offer an incredibly vague hint that is not worth it, and Platinum tickets will allow you to revive yourself if you die mid-level, which can be useful if you don't want to repeat long sections of a tedious puzzle. We actually get to see the Oracle herself in this scene. Kinda looks like Elton John to me, honestly. The giant coffin is where the parts of Barbaros you've collected so far are kept, and you can click them when you get them to get fun little excerpts, which is neat. Finally, clicking on the large captain guy in the middle brings us to the world map screen, allowing us to choose which level to enter next, which is what we're going to do now. As you can see, in every area, there's a level in the centre that's currently blocked off. This is the boss stage, which will only be available after clearing a certain amount of other levels. Selecting a level will show its HQ level, which is essentially just a difficulty level. The levels start out easy enough, but believe me when I tell you, they will become very difficult. Now at this stage, I think what I'll do is I'll just go through every level in turn, making note of anything interesting or any story developments, so here we go. Pit of Tragedy is our first level of the Jungle Ruins. Every level starts with a little pan over the level showing the chest and sometimes some areas of interest. This level is quite simple, a locked door and a key that's just out of reach. Pushing all of the trees in the level reveals this weird bird pot thing, which drop coins as it flies away. You can pick these up easily enough using the bell, but I didn't know that, so I tried to click on all of them to pick them up. It wasn't good. One pot contains a snake, which can be transformed to make a slither gripper, which allows Zack to get a little bit of extra reach, allowing the key to be grabbed and the door opened. Oh my god, twisting that key almost snapped my wrist off. Johnny tells Zack not to let his guard down, which lets the player know that the game is out to get you. Pulling the lever in the treasure room collapses the roof, filling the pit and allowing Zack to reach the treasure safely. Flute of the Growling Goblins is a pretty fun level. The goblins in question are conducting some sort of ritual around a flaming pillar, and a giant cauldron is boiling to the side. Wiki tells Zack to prepare himself for the possibility of death, which is comforting. There's a gondola at the back, which has a fun timing element to it, as you can only move it while the goblins are facing downwards. Giving a concussion to a random snake makes it angry, which scares away the cooking goblin, which allows us to drop a sleeping mushroom into the broth, essentially drugging the goblins. Are they okay? Is this morally allowed? Anyway, we get the flute item. It's shaped like a Wii remote, which is a pretty fun one. I kinda wish they used this more than once. Now, I know I said this level was fun, but it does introduce a horrific minigame. Towards the back of the stage is a skull, and shaking the bell on top of it revives the conductor, Bonelich von Skileski. This disgusting creature will provide a chest if you complete his rhythm minigame, which as a concept is something I would usually be very interested in. You can prize my copy of Theatrhythm Final Fantasy from my cold dead hands, but unfortunately this game has horrendous controls. You need to get the timing perfect to hit the note, and the game will rarely, if ever, register your inputs. The retro music you play is fun and it's a nice callback, but this game is hell. I find that, in my experience anyway, that I had to really put a lot of effort into every swing to get it to register, and the continuous notes were basically impossible. Seems this game is the reason the Wii Remote Strap was invented. Anyway, after several attempts, I managed to clear it, gaining a treasure map, and then cleared the level. 3 Colossi is a relatively small level, which has a block stacking puzzle I managed to mess up somehow, and introduces the concept of an item that can be flipped, as both ends of the crank Zack gains have different shapes, so you need to maneuver the Wii remote in such a way to change Zack's grip. Chain reaction caused by the crank rolls a boulder into a sort of Rube Goldberg machine thing, allowing the chest to be opened. Neat. After this level, we unlock Maddie, who we can send out into the world to search for treasure in exchange for gold. Interacting with him opens the world map, and you can pick coordinates to send him to, with places further from the hideout costing more. Any treasure maps you pick up will also show up on this screen. This is how you gain the concept art and the music that's in the bookshelf. Oh, also, completely forgot, you can pick up little pixel art things of retro games in the levels too. Here's Sun Sun. I have no idea who that is. Probably nothing to do with Goku, let's be honest. Maddie will return after completing a level unless you get a certain item, which I didn't, in which case he will return instantly. And we get a little scene of Zack running from various enemies in the game, and if the treasure's going to be good, Captain Rose pops out of the chest with a giant jewel, and if it's bad, then the chest is just empty. The Fountain Guardian is the final regular level of the Jungle Ruins, complete with a water slide and a giant pool of water with a scurry pair of red eyes in a cave. Here we find a worm in a hole, which we can turn into a straw, but there's literally no reason to, since there's no use for the straw. Think it might be just to make sure the worm stays put if you put it down, but I don't know. Anyway, we also find a frog that can turn into a bomb for some reason, and we use it to blow up a fishing goblin. That's what you get for fishing. Oh, no, we have to fish. Huh. Obviously the worm goes on the hook, but the game didn't want to let me do that, so I struggled. And then the actual fishing minigame itself is awful. Shaking the Wii remote at the right time decreases the fish's health, but shaking it at the wrong time increases it again. The main issue here is that there's literally no indication of the time changing before it happens, and at that stage you've already waggled a few times and the fish has regained its health and you've lost all your HQ. Eventually the fish will break the line, and if this happens you need to go get another worm and try again. Defeating the fish lets you unplug the water and... oh god, not the skeleton man again. After shaking the life out of Wiki, correctly adjust the water level to get the key, open the door, and get the hell out of there. King of the Jungle is the Jungle Ruins boss level. The King of Goblins is literally just sitting there and Zack decides to throw a rock directly at its head. Why is he so mean? Obviously this doesn't go down well, so now we have to somehow get past the Jungle King and get to the chest. The puzzle's fun and not overly complicated. Lighting the torch makes sense, but then a snake statue blows it out, meaning you need to find a way to stop that happening. This is great puzzle design, but I would prefer if lighting the torch was a bit easier since it's really hard for some reason. I kinda struggle to light it a bit. Turns out the gorilla's afraid of fire even though the torch goes out in front of it, and it picks up the chest as it runs away. Great. Now, thankfully I've played video games before and I know that an umbrella can go down a zipline, even though it takes ages for my brain to process how to use it right. Now this part I think can be unfair. After interacting with the chest, the platform you're standing on collapses, and if you hadn't picked up the umbrella from the zipline, you have no way of surviving the following fall. So this is when I used my first platinum ticket. After which I decided not to pick up the umbrella again and died. The brain cell must not be working today. At the bottom, the King Gorilla Goblin thing has literally died from the impact, and we open the chest, revealing a map to the next area instead of the usual Barbaros part. So now we head to the Frozen Temple. Our first level in this area is the Crystal Key. A relatively small area, a door with 3 coloured sections and the same colours on pieces of an outline of a key. There's also lion heads that dispense either water or ice, but the water can only be poured on the right stenciled thing. The lion motif carries through the rest of this area, and I think it's a fun animal to use for an ice world. I don't think I've seen it associated with much more than like a desert or a fire level. It's put to use well here, I think. Anyway, using the lions we can make an ice key, which can be melted down by a second ice key and a beam of light in order to fill the stencil needed to unlock the door to the chest. Fun little brain teaser, I enjoyed that one. Keeper of the Ice is next, and the gimmick here is that the little Jeeves, or Cinderella as I called it when I was younger, I don't have any idea why, will brush up any footprints left in the snow and destroy anything in its path when the clock hits midnight. Oh, that's why it all makes sense now. This adds a time pressure to the level, meaning you can only search for a solution in short bursts, making sure Zack has solid ground to stand on when he needs. The solution itself isn't too complex, but you can still get yourself killed easily by pressing the lion button with the random stick, since getting blasted with bursts of ice is generally not good for a person's health. Eventually you'll figure out the solution is to get the robot onto the ice so that it sinks, drowns and dies, you awful person. Next is Icicle of Prosperity and... Alright, no, I need to separate something in my brain for a second. This level is great. There are a lot of items to play with, the solution's fun, the level itself is well laid out, but my opinion of this level has been drastically brought down by the presence of the awful skeleton Mozart person here. I spent about half an hour trying to get this stupid thing cleared. None of my inputs were registering and I was literally aching from shaking that remote around. This section was horrifically designed, it's bad, the motion controls do not work, contrary to what all those people said on Game FAQs 13 years ago. It does suck that the wiki upgrades are locked behind this guy, since eventually I gave up, so I don't get to see what those are like, but at least you don't need them to complete the game. Oh, but anyway, yes, the level. Yeah, it's fun. The hammer and the drill have great designs. I like you know to make use of everything in order to get the ice chandelier down. Johnny Styles is chilling on the ground. All in all, the majority of the level is fairly great. Frost Breath is the boss stage for the Frozen Temple, and boy is it something. The level begins with Captain Rose struggling to open a chest, because she doesn't know it has a deadly curse on it that will end any human life that touches it or whatever. Zack literally does not care and eats some chocolate, and a goon is able to steal Wiki from outside of his grasp. The ringing of the bell wakes up the giant ice lion in the background, and it proceeds to suck up Wiki and the goon. Wiki shows up in the lion's jaw during the fight, but you never see the goon again, so he's just dead, I guess. Rest in peace, I guess. Rose doesn't care though. The level itself is a light puzzle, with ice mirrors that can be used to manipulate the direction of the light beam. After every hit, the lion will bring down ice that will shatter holders for the mirrors, so a different route must be used each time. It will also breathe out ice at various stages, which will kill Zack if he isn't standing behind either the light beam cannon or an ice mirror, but only if it's facing the right direction. Found that one out the hard way. Honestly, the hardest part of this puzzle is manipulating the light beam cannon itself. It really did not want to cooperate with me. I had to fight with it the vast majority of the time. If you miss with the beam, Wiki will lament their impending doom, and if you miss 3 times, Wiki will die, so try not to do that please. After 2 hits, Rose will think the beast is dead, causing her to celebrate, but after it moves she panics, causing her to run down the steps and get frozen. This leads to her actually being necessary to use as an item, as you can pick her up, move her to the side, and give her a mirror in order to help solve the puzzle, which honestly I think is really cool. Apparently there are 2 configurations to this puzzle, and only one of them actually needs Rose, so I'm glad I got to see the one where she's needed. After 3 hits, the lion explodes, and we get Wiki back. Rose defrosts herself, and instead of thanks, her goons throw many frog bombs at Zack and Wiki, threatening severe harm and tanking the frame rate quite a bit actually. But anyway, we got our map, so we're on our way to the volcano cavern. This is where the puzzles start to get significantly more difficult. There are a lot more ways to lock yourself out of solving the level now. I had to restart every single stage from here on out at least once. Bridge of Doom is our first level of the area, and we see some cool bird statues holding water in containers, and between them is a stone bridge. Golden goblet is lying on the ground, and the obvious thought would be to fill the goblet with water, and use it to fill the container in order to quench the flames around the chest, but of course it's not that easy. The bridge will start to collapse every time Zack crosses, meaning you can only traverse it a certain number of times before it completely falls apart. Thankfully there's another route on the right side. We just need to remember the sequence to use the lever and... Oh wow, that's longer than I thought it would be, okay. At the bottom we find some of the Rose goons dying of heat stroke. Zack, we need to help them, not use them as puzzle solutions. There are also 2 lines of fire blocking the path, and for some reason if you try to put the left one out first, you get penalised because it takes 2 goblets to put it out, but like, how was I supposed to know that? Anyway, the hard hat lets us hold more water and we can fill the container, freeing the chest. Lake of Fire is next, and there's a distinct lack of fires or lakes when we start the level. The giant goblet of water and the several boulders give an indication of what we need to do, but you need to be careful about this one. If you do what I did and freed the water to form a lake of water, and then use the door at the top to free some lava to solidify it, you'll have to cut the chest down from the giant pole it's been perched on, and it will literally fall off the stage, and Wiki yet again doesn't seem to care very much. You know, if you don't want to be here, you can go home. Like, I don't think we're under contract. Free the lava from the door before releasing the water in order to burn the pole down, then solidify the lake of fire to get the treasure. Oh, that one's actually really pretty. Relics of the Past is the game's most vertical level, which is fun to look at, but also means that each section of the level is individual, meaning you don't have to worry too much about bringing items from the beginning down to the bottom. This level has a fun gimmick in these mech things that you can move around with the D-pad after inserting a power crystal from Crash Bandicoot, but after it was dipped in lava to make it orange. Some of these mechs are hostile, but they can't go over these little Animal Crossing arch bridges, which I proceeded to forget by the end of the stage. This little tile puzzle didn't make sense to me at all, honestly. Like, I understood the core concept, but I'm unsure how you're supposed to do it perfectly. You'd think all the Genshin puzzles I've solved would help here, but apparently not. Anyway, there's another Bone Lich game here, but because he has a different colour wig on, you need the upgraded Wiki to wake him up, and since I never got that, we won't be interacting with him ever again. Thank God. I'm supposed to believe that this mech head shields Zack from the lava, but he clearly gets hit here, what the hell? The last section involves dropping the rest of the mechs into the lava, essentially ending their entire existence, but hey, we had to do it for the treasure. Dragon Scales is the last regular level of the Volcano Cavern, and it is the bane of my life. Obviously, having one less than max difficulty means the level will be hard, but I didn't think it would be this hard. This is the only level in the game to have the spider enemies, which can actually kill you if they grab you enough times, and you can't transform them without knocking them out first, which limits your options to begin with significantly. This level has about 1,000 ways to break itself, and this was the first time I was forced to actually use an Oracle doll, and it didn't help. I can see the treasure, thank you. So, the first thing you might miss is that you have to pull the switch inside the glass dragon twice. First one drops down the bridge, and the second lowers the dragon fang back down again, which allows for access to the right side of the level, and also lets you activate the dragon machine gun, which you can use to shoot 2 of the spiders to death. This brings us to my next issue with the level, the spider racket. First of all, cool idea for an animal item. Second of all, this is literally the worst item in the game by a long shot. Thank God it didn't show up again. The aim is to use the fireballs from the dragon thing to hit the other spider so you can access the second goon. But I don't know if I'm missing something or not, but this thing is impossible to aim. You literally cannot control where the fireball's going. It's pure luck whether you hit the target you want or not, and of course if you miss, your HQ score goes down. And you have to do it twice. I hated this level. You also need to make sure you drop the items down into the pit at the bottom in the correct order to make sure you can access the left of the stage. Make sure you have the items you need over there, and if you manage to hit the chest, then you pass. I'm never doing this level ever again. Oh my god, that was awful. Anyway, the boss level is Ancient Worm. Zack and Wiki meet a little baby dragon, and Wiki baby talks at it, and Zack decides that psychological warfare is an appropriate action, and obviously the baby's parent doesn't like that and immediately tries to kill the pair, which is valid. The objective is to light the flames inside each of the Birdman pedestals in order to shoot the water inside them up into the glass thing on the cave ceiling, and the baby dragon is here to help us achieve this. I really did not enjoy this level, since in order to light the flames, you need to pull on the baby's tail to make it spray fire, and that just didn't sit right with me. I didn't like doing it multiple times. The parent will not attack you unless the baby starts to cry, and you can tell the baby's mood by just looking at it. There's a little mini game that lets you rock the baby to try and calm it down, but it never really worked for me and just made it mad, so just stick to feeding it the flames around the edges. Putting the goon totems in certain inlets extends a giant hammer up to the ceiling, and when the glass is full of water, making the dragon shoot the hammer and dodging will make it smash the glass, soaking the dragon and killing it. But not really, since we don't have the resources to look after an orphan baby dragon. So the parent is okay, and they both leave to swim in the lava. Duh. As we fly away with the next treasure map, the Rose Pirates attack the ship with about twice as many goons as they used to have, and steal the map. meaning we have to go get it back, leading to the airship level. I appreciated the change in pace here, even though we only get to do one level in this new area. It's a nice one, it's a really nice aesthetic. Operation Take Back is a stealth mission more than anything, but also requires a little bit of foresight. The goons are all over the ship and will not hesitate to shoot if they catch you. Rose has the map in her cabin and she's standing right in front of it, so you'll need to distract them all somehow. After opening the hangar, you should make note of the second switch inside the hangar door. There are a few occasions in which a mechanism is present which isn't used at all in the level. Making use of the newly empty torpedo chute, Zack crosses along the bottom of the ship and opens a hatch at the top of a ladder. Make note that this is the only time that Zack will stop at the top of a ladder. Don't make the same mistake I did and assume he'll do that every time. Stopping one of the propellers doesn't cause the ship to crash. In fact, it doesn't affect the flying of the ship at all. It only serves as a distraction. And it makes me think they're purely decorative, which would only make sense with the vibe Rose gives across. This allows access to the outer wing, which opens to the bridge, where we can incapacitate one goon and activate the guns. The guns can destroy an air vent on the top of the ship, but it's also very important that you destroy the hangar door at this stage as well. If you don't, you'll mess it all up and you'll have to do everything again. Dropping into the air vent allows you to both bomb a ceiling fan that kills a goon dead, like they died, there's no coming back from that, and you can drop an actual alive frog onto Rose, who squirms around in fear, which, honestly, same, I would do the same. If my personal cabin isn't safe, they could be anywhere, I'm going to panic. When you enter her cabin, do not ring the bell thinking you'll turn her into a totem and put her onto your item list. Only the frog will change and you'll get shot in the head off screen. Once you leave the room, Rose will wake up and alert her goons, meaning you have to sneak off the ship, but be quick about it. At this stage, if you didn't destroy the hangar door, the goons will close it and you'll be stuck. But we did, so it's okay. We can get into the spare plane and fly our way out of there. This was a really fun one actually, it was one of my favourites. The next area is Barbaros' castle, which is a scary gothic kind of place, which honestly, if the skeleton pirate I was helping owned a castle that looked like this, especially with the Iron Maidens and the Ghost Pirates, I will be doubting its sincerity a little. Bell Tower of Requiem is the first level, and it introduces us to the truly horrifying Iron Maidens. Their eyes glow, the noises they make are loud and scary, I didn't enjoy them. We also see these Ghost Pirates that transform into skulls when exposed to moonlight, so I guess we'll be making use of that in the puzzles to come. Reversing the flow of the giant gear cog thing lets us travel to the top of the stage, ring the bell in question, and that makes the face on the little fountain thing open its eyes and cry blood. This is all very The Eclipse from Berserk. Don't Google that. Reaching into the pool when the moon is out gives Zack a little mini moon that produces light, and reaching in when the moon is away gives the key to the bell tower, letting Zack drop the bell on top of the Iron Maiden, revealing the path to the chest. The Painted Secret is an incredible level. It's very Mario 64. You need to interact with the paintings in order to gain pieces of this chest jigsaw, although for some reason I had great difficulty using the brush on the paintings the first time. For some reason it wasn't moving the dust or the clouds, which made me think I was doing something wrong, but the second time it worked fine. I don't know, probably just some control jank. I realised when I reached the first floor that I had deep repressed memories of this man in the painting, which did scare me a little since I thought this meant the puzzle would be really difficult, but it really wasn't. Poking him in the eyes doesn't work, but using the black paint to make a sort of paintbrush to blind him does. Then using a tap to drain the painting means the jigsaw pieces are relatively easy to get. Although I didn't realise the piece wouldn't go through the well painting, even though we could bring the brush up and the tap through the door, but hey, we can't have it all. Great puzzle, very much enjoyed. Murr is next, and this one made me actually turn up the speakers on my Wii Remote. The chest can be seen in a mirror on the background, but not in the room Zack's in. Johnny Styles is hiding behind a fabric screen on the bed, and for some reason I thought this would lead to a Psycho reference. I don't know why I thought that, I must have been thinking about Looney Tunes back in action. Great film. Anyway, eventually the phone will ring, giving you a sequence of sounds which you need to replicate using the items in the room. This will possess the table and lift it off the ground. This opens a tunnel to the other side of the mirror and... oh, Jess on the other side of the mirror again. What the hell? We get a key, and repeating the music puzzle lets us travel back towards the locked door on the other side and... Oh my god, it's not a mirror, it's an evil clone Zack picking up the chest. That's so cool. Unlocking the door and using a worm allows us to get the mole drill, letting us drill a hole in the ground, and we can drop evil Zack in it and grab the chest. Or maybe we were evil Zack all along. The final regular level is Mad Science. I feel quite similarly about this level as I did Dragon Skills. The level's fun, the gimmick is interesting, but it frustrated me to no end. The gimmick is that you can liquidize the animals you find in the level, and certain combinations of different liquids will either make Zack tiny, or make him invisible when he showers in them. You can also shower with an umbrella if you want. My first personal issue was figuring out how to liquidize the creatures. For some reason I thought there would be a switch or something to do it, but no. All you had to do was untransform them inside that little compartment, and I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out. Next was a water pump. It takes like 6 or 7 pumps in order to make it work, and that many inputs can make a player believe they're doing something wrong, so I would have preferred it if it took slightly less. But honestly, my biggest issue was the snake. There's a stone in the outside area that if you lift it up, a tunnel leads to a snake at the bottom. I could not figure out how to access this snake for the longest time. If you go into it when you're mini, it eats Zack, and there aren't any items to drop into the hole like in other levels. The solution is to simply click on the snake. That's it. This will be fine, but it isn't how it works in any other level in the game. Usually it needs an item or it'll come out on its own. This just annoyed me quite a bit. You can also get yourself stuck by forgetting to use the water pump before you make Zack mini, since he can't wash himself off and you fail. I enjoyed it overall. It was a fun level and a fun concept, but I think it was too much brain power for me. I did like the orange though, I would like to taste that. Return of the Legend is the boss level here, and it was deceptively simple in execution but presented itself as complicated. The level starts with an evil piano summoning a trio of Iron Maidens, which I like to imagine as 2 parents and their baby. Oh, that's nice. The first section involves the maidens releasing animals that you need to use to survive. The first releases bats and then acid rain, so you need to use the umbrella to live. The second drops pots that may or may not have snakes in them, and you need to grab a chain that opens a hatch that lets moonlight in so the pirate ghosts die and don't kill Zack. You can use the umbrella here also, but you need the snake later anyway. This part wasn't hard or complex at all, but if you miss the bats then you're screwed, I'm afraid. Next, the maidens will open up and start sucking. You need to watch carefully and note the differences between them to figure out what zone to stand in. First, stand in the corresponding colour to the maiden that doesn't jump, next the one whose eyes don't light up, and then the one that has a scurry face inside. After this sequence, the maidens will attack Zack individually, so you need to use the frog bombs to blow them up one by one. That stage is quite simple, so you should be fine. Barbaros will arrive with all of his body parts when you gain the final piece, asking you to revive him very angrily and forcefully, and I don't want to encourage this sort of behaviour, so maybe I won't. What about that? What are you going to do about it? Nothing. After a prolonged ringing session, Barbaros is revived, and his hair is on fire, he has a whip, he's floating, and he looks kinda scary. Surely a man that will uphold his end of the deal. Shockingly enough, he betrays the pair and drops them down into what appears to be hell, and we need to escape the oncoming onslaught of the undead. Very Diamond is Unbreakable. I enjoyed this part. Ringing the bell repels the spirits like it does the curses on the chests, and the pair escapes unharmed. Well, maybe their pride has been dented, and their spirit. While floating out at sea, the pair decided to take revenge and get the boat they were promised, even though they literally have no plan, and thankfully Johnny turns up with Rose in tow. Rose has had quite an impressive sea vessel this entire time apparently, although I guess when you're part of the bourgeoisie you can have anything you want. Interestingly enough, if you check the coffin when you're back at the hideout now, there's a full replica of Barbaros' treasure now, which is neat, and Wiki notes that they'll get it back soon, but honestly Wiki, I don't want anything to do with it anymore, thank you. The Great Chase is the level that takes place on Rose's ship, and it's a short but simple one while still being satisfying. Johnny and Rose are talking at the prow of the ship, and Johnny reveals he actually does have a plan. He saw Barbaros leave his castle, so we have one lead at least. He also keeps calling Rose babe, and I don't want this to be a thing that develops, thank you very much. After a bit of conversation, Rose and her goons get picked up by the literal kraken from the deep, and Zack has to save them. First segment involves using the motion controls to control a gun that you need to shoot the kraken with in order to save the goons. The targets are really small and the controls are awkward, so good luck getting a perfect score here. After saving some goons, you need to drop tuna torpedoes onto the kraken before it destroys the ship, which is honestly harder than it looks. These things are slow. Shooting down 3 more goons allows them to fish tuna for you, making the torpedo process much more efficient. Although this one guy will cower in the corner, which is valid, honestly, me too. Eventually the kraken will move itself in front of the boat, so we can shoot it with a giant arrow and... oh, it missed. I think that was supposed to happen. After the next round of shooting and missing, the kraken breaks down the mast and Captain Rose is freed. The cowering goon gets himself together and starts feeding the kraken barrels of fish. Using the broken mast as a makeshift arrow, Rose tries and fails to rally her troops, and in a move of camaraderie gives her precious staff to Zack, which I thought was really sweet. Now, I'm unsure if you have to do this, but place a torpedo into the barrel the kraken eats, so it'll explode and paralyze it when it's in position. Zack uses the staff and the goons release the mast, shooting it directly into the face of the kraken. Do krakens have faces? What else would they be? Anyway, he's fine, but it sinks to the ocean floor, and we're safe and free. After the stage, Johnny calls Captain Rose a silly little kitten? Hello? You can't say. Thankfully we spot Barbaros and move past all that. He opens up a hole in the ocean and moves in. Zack and Wiki are head empty, no notes, and want to plunge directly into the hole, while Rose is the only person who worries for their safety and, more importantly, the safety of her ship. But unfortunately for her, no one cares, and they plunge in anyway. Treasure Island appears to be in the center of the earth, which is a really cool visual. The Treasure Island sections look incredible, such a great area. It's not long after crash landing that Barbaros puts everyone into temporal stasis and kidnaps Wiki so he can revive his zombie pirate crew. Everyone else is thrown into jail, and this begins the most difficult level in the game, Barbaros' Land. This level has a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things to remember to do. It took me a long time to figure out what to do, and even then it's hard to achieve everything in the right order while staying alive, but I guess that's why this level has the highest amount of stars. The first roadblock is getting out of our jail cell. Pulling the chain in the cell will open up the floor, dropping Zack towards the spike pit, but clicking on the vent door allows Jack to jump to safety. If you miss, Zack will get a spike up his ass and it will be your fault. Riding the elevator up allows you to reach the highest level, where you can get a flagpole you aren't supposed to yet, and drop a pot on the zombie pirate. What you're supposed to do at this stage is grab a cup of sand in the next room, and use it to blind an eye on the other side of the stage using the wind, which is what you're supposed to use the flagpole for. But I didn't do this, and died later because of it. There are sections of the stage where you can change the direction of gravity, allowing Zack to walk on the walls, although the zombies are patrolling these sections also, so you need to be careful, because they will stab you. The flagpole from the beginning can be used to help Zack balance across a tightrope, leading to a floating ship, which you can bring towards the main island, and if you do it quick enough, apparently you can drop all of the items to the bottom floor, but I couldn't do it. Here you can get a fake bell item, which you need for the puzzle. The rest is useless, I'm afraid. Above the blind eye you can get a sword, which leads to a horrific section. If you run into a zombie pirate, you enter a sword fight. You need to use your sword to block the opponent's sword slashes, and eventually they'll tire out and you can hit them. You can try and hit them before this, but it's literally not worth it, don't bother. First to get 3 hits wins, and if you lose to a patrolling zombie, then you die. You only need to fight the zombie at the bottom, but I would only do this when you've got the puzzle set up, in order not to waste any time and have to do it again. It controls horrifically, it's like Skyward Sword but worse. After a lot of wandering around, I finally gave up and consulted a walkthrough, and turns out I missed a lighter that was inside a skull on the upper level. Okay, right, that makes sense. You need to shake it in a very specific way to get it out, and I didn't appreciate it very much, thanks. Lighting the torch on the bottom level heats up a random frog, which jumps out into the open. and then you need to drop a random piece of gravel onto a snake in order to knock it out, and then you can drop the snake onto the frog, causing it to jump into Barbaros' room. Killing the pirate zombie in front of this room makes Barbaros revive another soldier using Wiki, who is tied up. Please let him go. This transforms the frog into a bomb, causing Barbaros to run away, and you can trip him up with a tactically placed rope. If you place the fake bell right, then Barbaros will drop Wiki and pick up the fake, allowing you to grab Wiki and then turn Barbaros back into a skeleton, where he sinks into the waterfall. Hopefully he rusts. Does gold rust? I don't know, it doesn't matter. Now we're free to get the legendary ship. Make sure to transform the Rose crew in order to not get them killed by the spike pit, and they can grab the giant barrel and we escape, thank God. I feel like I made that sound much more simple than it was, but when you're faced with all of it with no info, it can be slightly overwhelming and difficult to navigate. The crew moves towards the legendary ship, and honestly, I get it. I'm not one for ships, but I would also travel to the core of the earth with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to get this ship in my possession. Rose and Johnny argue over who is to take ownership of the ship, and Wiki yet again makes it obvious that they literally do not care, and they just want on. This brings us to the final level of the game, Barbaros' Land Final Battle. I've actually never completed this level, so this was my first time finishing the game, so I was slightly intimidated going in. Treasure Island is being engulfed by a black hole for some reason that is never explained, and the boat can't escape. We get to see the interior of the ship, and oh my god, this thing is beautiful. The organ pipes, the beating heart underneath, it's so good, I love it. Barbaros turns up in a giant ship shaped like a crocodile. I don't know why it's a crocodile, but I guess it's just an animal. Anyway, he's back and he's pissed, so we need to put an end to him. We decide to work together to defeat him, and Rose weaponizes her bachelor's in team management, while Zack does all of the actual work. Thankfully there's a giant robotic hand on the ship's exterior, so we need to use that to succeed. First phase involves shooting down some missiles, then using a bell amplifier to transform the missiles when there's far too many to shoot down. Next is an actually pretty cool section where you need to grab the missiles with the giant hand before they make contact with the ship, which gets quite difficult towards the end. Now, the anchor section is what messed me up. The goal is to swing the anchor and throw it towards the hands to pin one of them down, and the swinging is fine, but the throwing of it is difficult. The action seems to be really finicky. I found it difficult to actually get the throwing to work, but I was used to it at this point honestly, and we got there in the end. For the next part, you need to shoot the goons at the openings in Barbaros' ship, effectively killing them in the depths of space. This part is a little bit finicky as well, and I actually died here on my first attempt, and turns out you can't revive on this level, so I had to do the whole thing again. Amazing. Love that for me. This destroys the ship's torso, and the crocodile head primes itself to shoot a giant laser at our ship. Throwing the anchor back at it makes the head grab it in its mouth, and we can drag it in for a finishing blow. Pull off the hat to reveal Barbaros. Why was this ship so small? Why is this the ratio? Use the goons who are back somehow to knock him out, leaving him vulnerable for the final ring of the giant bell. The cracked ship becomes a totem, but Barbaros is still kicking, and he's sucking the energy out of the legendary ship or something. I don't really know what's going on right now, to be honest. Zack and Wiki decide to sacrifice themselves in order to save the rest of the crew, and Wiki tells Zack he's been waiting for this day their entire life. They turn into a bell. Zack jumps and headbutts Barbaros. Is this a One Piece reference? I'm unsure, I still need to watch that. And we get an extended bell ringing part, and I really appreciated this. It really added to the intensity of the moment, the final climactic battle. Barbaros is screaming, it's great. He becomes a skeleton, and the trio fall into the black hole. Suddenly, we're greeted by the black hole against the black background, literally out of nowhere. Wiki gets a very deep lady voice and tells Zack thanks for allowing them to fulfill their lives' potential, that they might disappear, but not to be sad, since they're best friends and they had a lot of fun. A blast of energy pushes both the ship and Zack away from the black hole, and the crew escapes while the path to Treasure Island is closed forever. That last section came out of literally nowhere. I have no idea why Wiki got a deep voice all of a sudden. I don't think these powers they have apparently are ever explained. All I know is that Wiki knew Barbaros before. I feel like I'm missing something. Still made me cry though, although I am a sucker for emotional moments and I was in bits. Thank you. This leads us directly into the credits sequence. They're pretty fun. The music is sort of a cute little pirate shanty thing. Zack's walking past all of the characters we've met throughout the adventure. They're just chilling though. This is sweet. There's screenshots of various levels throughout the game in the back, it's great. A final post-credits scene shows everyone lounging around in the hideout since Wiki is gone, and Rose is trying to cure their depression, when suddenly they hear a bell ring. They all run out, except the boss, he doesn't care. We get a little bit of narration that's just like the opening scene, talking about the darkness and asking if we know the tale of Treasure Island. Obviously we do, everybody's seen Muppet Treasure Island. The game ends with a shot of the sky from inside a chest, mirroring the scene from the beginning of the game. I did really enjoy the ending of the game, even if parts of it seemed to come out of nowhere, but I'll assume that something happened during development, so I'll let them away with it. Overall, I had a really good time with this game. The puzzles were fun and interesting. There were only a couple of them that frustrated me, like it wasn't on the level of other point-and-click games. It's no Monkey Island. The only issue is that when something was annoying, it was really annoying. Spider rackets, sword fighting, rhythm games. I feel like this game would have greatly benefited from releasing later with the Motion Plus, but hey, they didn't know about that, and Skyward Sword still had a bit of jank to it. We can't all be perfect. The length was also perfect. There were just enough puzzles to make me feel satisfied with the experience, while not overstaying its welcome. As I said earlier, the character and aesthetics of this game are one of its really strong points. The game looks incredible for a Wii game, the art style is very appealing to look at, and I have literally no notes on the character design. The music too was really fitting, I really enjoyed that. Oh yeah, there's also a final scene with Barbaros telling you about his secret treasures he's hidden throughout the game, but you need to find secret maps via Maddie to find them, then you have to solve a riddle to do specific things in certain levels, and even then they're not guaranteed to show up. I did not care enough to look for these, so we are not going to cover that. Well, that's that. Another great game from my childhood that I played as an adult, and thankfully in my opinion, it still holds up. Hope you all enjoyed this look through the game, and if you watched the whole way through, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe for more. I would really appreciate it, and it does go a long way. Tune in next time for another playthrough. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.